Great to be here, living the life Jesus has for you. I've got to confess, I feel like a number 11 batsman. There's 1 hour, the last session, and then they're 9 down, and I've been put in, and I've got to see the next hour out. I've got 30 runs to make, and if I make them, I'm going to be a hero. If I'm out, I'm going to be a ratbag and a failure. Now, the measure of whether I'm going to be successful or a failure will be in your reaction to my first story. It has got a very subtle ending. It has got a very subtle ending, and there are a few Australians here, so I want to make sure that if you get it in the end, you stand and say, hey, and save me, because I'm taking a risk. There was a helicopter 20,000 feet up with a long rope, and it was over the ocean. There were 10 people hanging onto the rope. The rope was about to break. 9 of the people were men, 1 was a woman. And they decided, who's going to do it? Who's going to say, I will let go? Because it only needed 1 person to let go of the rope and everyone else would be saved. If they all hang onto the rope, the frayed rope was about to break, they'd all go to their death. And so all it required was 1 person to make the ultimate sacrifice. Who will it be? The men looked at each other. No one offered. The woman looked at the men. No response. And in the end, the woman said, okay, I will make the ultimate sacrifice because I'm a woman, and women always make the sacrifice. I've done it all my life. When I got married, I had to shift where he lived. I had to give up my job. I had to look after the kids. I now look after my mother and the mother-in-law, and so it is just so natural that I will be the one and I will let go of the rope. And the men, they were so taken by that speech that they all clapped. Hey! I was born in Woolston. Woolston is my hood. I went to Linwood Ave, Linwood Intermediate, Linwood High School. I went to Canterbury University in the days in which it was by the gardens. I'd go home for lunch on my little Suzuki 50. My mum, she was the one, I was the spoilt youngest. I was a hole in the end of the condom and it didn't work, and I felt special ever since. For some people it's the end, for them it was, I've always felt blessed actually. And so I married Patsy when she was 19 and I was 21. And I'm now 66, so that's 44 years married. And then we went to, thank you. And then went to Teachers College here, played a zillion games of table tennis and badminton in that 1 year at college. Then went to Palmerston North, taught there at Freiburg High School, geography, English, social studies for Z. All along playing a lot of cricket. I'm a passionate cricketer. Then, after teaching for 3 years, went to St John's Theological College in Auckland, became an Anglican minister. My first gig was in Timaru. Any Timaruvians? Yep, St John's, Highfield. My mum was born in Fairview, and her butchers, and they were orchardists. They made cider, which all Timaruvians will know about. So from Timaru to Temuka, the big gig in Temuka. Anyone from Temuka? Fantastic, I love Temuka. And then we shifted to St Christopher's in Avonhead. And I was there for 23 years. And for an Anglican church, it grew to about 700 or 800, which is big for an Anglican church, a little for the Baptists and the Penties. But those from St Christopher's who have had a link with St Christopher's, at least 3 of you, where are they? Where are they? Gary, Mark, and there's Tim. Oh, there's 4. Fantastic. So St Christopher's, and then after 23 years, my prayer was, Lord, please give me a job I can't say no to. And it's not a bad prayer, actually. If you feel that your time could be up, Lord, I pray for a job that I can't say no to. And one came up, and it was to Anglican Missions Board. So I spent the next 6 years travelling New Zealand and around the Pacific, reminding people about overseas mission. And then 3 years ago, a mate of mine who was a bishop of Nelson said, come and give us a hand. Richard Eleanor. And so I've been there in the cathedral in Nelson ever since. So that's me. I'm married. I took the service of my nephew a wee while ago. I've got this hoodacker, haven't I? And I met an Aussie bloke there, and I actually quite like Aussies. And for some reason, I hope that they win the Ashes. I must be getting sick, but I do. I want them to win the Ashes rather than the English for some reason. Anyway, I asked him what he did, and he was a groomsman. He said, well, I'm a computer salesman. But he didn't stop at that. A Kiwi would stop at that. But he was an Aussie. And he said, and I'm a very good one. And I thought, wow, this guy's got a bit of backbone. He's got a bit of sassiness. I said, what makes you such a good salesman? And he said 3 things. He says, I know my product like no one else. I'm a computer salesman. I know all about my computer. If anyone asks me about this computer, I can tell them everything about it because I've done my homework. I know. Secondly, I actually do believe that I sell the best computers on the planet. Now, it's important, he says, that I get that. And he believed that he sold the best computer on the planet. And lastly, he says, and I deliver it. If they want 10 computers on the 10th of August, I will give them 10 computers on the 10th of August. And I had an aha moment at that stage, and I was really impressed with this guy. He was quite passionate. You've got to know your product, you've got to believe it's the best, and you've got to deliver it. Well, what about us? Christians. It's the same. You've got to know your product. You've got to know Jesus. You've got to know the Bible. And it's a lifelong learning. It just doesn't come. You don't suddenly pass and you've made it. But you've got to know. You've got to know. You've got to read regularly. I've got a little job for you to do. I want you to write down somewhere Numbers chapter 6, verse 24. I would love every man in this room to learn off by heart Numbers chapter 6, verse 24. Because this is a fantastic prayer, and we Anglicans use it as a priestly prayer, but it's in the Bible, so it's a prayer for you. And if you pray, and this is a prayer you can pray at work, out loud or silently. It's a prayer you can pray at home. What would Christchurch be like if all you men started praying, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and grant you his peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance and grant you his peace. You know, that's a fantastic prayer. And you can learn it off by heart. Next time you're going for a wander or for a trot or for a run, just repeat it. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face. It's Numbers 6:24. It's the prayer of Aaron. And you can all pray that prayer. You can all learn that prayer off by heart. So it's a lifelong thing for you to know your product. The product is Jesus. So you know about Jesus, and you experience Jesus, and you grow in Jesus, and you know the Bible. 3 9s are 27, 39 books in the Old Testament, 3 times 9, 27, 27 in the New Testament, 66 in all. Get to know the books of the Bible. Surprise yourself. Know your product. Secondly, it's not worth knowing your product if you're not convinced it's true, it's dinkum. You believe it's the best product in the world. There is no one else like Jesus. Jesus is the best. In fact, that language is used in the book of Hebrews. Jesus is the best. That's what it says. Believe that he's the best. Now, how do you do that? A number of ways. When people doubt that Jesus is the best, say, What's the date today? Oh, yeah. And what year is it? 2019. Where did we get that from? Oh, I don't know. We got that from a bloke called Jesus. Tell me, how many other people do you know who have got the year named after them? No one. Jesus, fantastic. Jesus is the greatest. Along the roads, especially in Auckland, you see white crosses. White crosses from people who've lost loved ones. And they go and whack a white cross. Why? Because it's a sign of Jesus. The Ashes cricket test. England. Australia. What do they sing? What do they sing at Lord's? What will they sing at Lord's? And did those feet in ancient times walk upon England? It's a song about Jesus. The FA Cup final, Wembley. King George V was there. Cardiff City, a Welsh side, were playing against Arsenal. Arsenal had never lost. That day, in front of 100,000 people at Wembley Stadium, Cardiff City won. And in front of King George V, the whole stadium, 100,000 stood, and what did they sing? Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The last verse, in life, in death, O Lord, abide with me. Jesus is the greatest. He's so incorporated in our culture. No one else in history has. A lot of the music, from Mozart to the sculptures. You can't escape Jesus because he's the greatest. So you've got to know about Jesus. You know Jesus. You experience Jesus. You know the Bible. You spend time with the Bible. You believe that Jesus is the best product in the world. Jesus is the best Savior. He's the best. He's the one. And then lastly, you've got to deliver. You've got to deliver. This is where the rubber hits the road. Hands up those who are employers. You are the boss. Hands up, you are the boss. Please be proud. I love it when I meet Christian bosses. Because, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. I know you're not used to hard work. Keep your hands up. I want you to have a reputation of being the best boss around. I want you to have a reputation of being a fair boss. I want you to have a reputation of being a consistent boss. I want you to have a reputation that you're a loving boss, that you care not just for the blokes there or the women there, but their spouses and their kids. I want you to know the names of some of the kids of the men and women who work there. I want you to retain your staff. I want people to know that, gee, is that what Christianity is about? Having a neat boss like that. Be a generous boss. Deliver. Deliver. Hands up for those who are employees. You do all the hard work. I want you to keep your hands up. You slack like your bosses if you don't. I want you to have a reputation as Christians of volunteering to put on the Christmas party for everyone to have a fantastic time and for everyone to be sober. Dinkum. It's easy to organise a party where people get drunk, but it's rubbish. I want you to be the one who remembers people's birthdays. Even I can make muffins. I know how to make muffins. I make them every week for my staff team. And they're hot, and they've got butter on them, and they love them. It's little things. I want you to be known not as a Christian at a particular church, but as a Christian employer, as a Christian employee. Know your product, believe in your product, deliver your product. And you deliver it in the way you are a boss, the way you are a worker, your attitude you've got. I was talking to a mate of mine last night, and it's a good way to cut to the quick. Rather than saying, how are you? How's the job going? I ask people, out of 10, how's the job going? Because they've got to choose a number. And he said, 7, but soon it's going to be 9. This is true. And I said, why is that? He said, Billy is leaving. He said, but Billy, but you work in a Christian company. Yeah, I know. And Billy's a Christian. And he's going. And we're all really pleased. We wrote wonderful testimonies that he would leave and get another job, and he has. And our job satisfaction is going to go from 7 till 9. May you not be the Billy. That when you leave, people are happier. And you're a Christian, and they're Christians. Because it can happen. Now, I'm a big fan of this. Look after yourself. Look after yourself. Now, I can't read that. That's too far away. So together, please read it. 1, 2, 3. Rightio. You are in charge of your diary. You are in charge of your physical fitness. You are in charge of your spiritual fitness. Don't blame Promise Keepers. Don't blame your vicar. Don't blame your dean. It's over to you. It's over to you. And so we sometimes are like people who go to the doctors. The doctor gives us a pill. Please take this pill once a day. We come home and we say, I'm going to take it once a week. And when we get sick, we blame the doctor. The Bible, prayer, home group, it's regular. You've got to do it regularly. And if you don't, then you're not going to get spiritually fit. And when the pressure comes, you're going to crumble. But it's over to you. Now, small groups are good in that you can challenge each other. John Wesley, the great Methodist, he started it off. And do you know what the questions he asked in the original home groups of John Wesley? What sins have you committed this week? Second question was, what sins have you not committed but you could have? You look at the life of John Wesley, just amazing. You've got to look after yourself. Now, you've got to spoil yourself as well. I don't believe in setting yourself up to fail. I fail easy enough without setting myself up. So don't say you're going to read for 2 hours a day. You're not going to do it, and you're going to have to deal with the guilt. So guilt is not helpful as for Christians, especially those who've been brought up in Christian families. And you realise, hands up those who know the date and the time when they were converted. Okay, I want either you, please wave your hands. Now, you are the minority. Hands up those who don't know when they became Christians. They were born in a Christian environment, and there was no great event. There was no sex, drugs, rock and roll, and then Jesus. You were just nurtured in the faith, and you grew up in the faith. Hands up those. Right, now, please have a look at this, because this can be guilt-inducing. Because you don't write books about your conversion because no one would read it because it's boring. But you guys who from sex, drugs, rock and roll to Jesus, you write the books, you get interviewed on Radio Rima, not us. And we think that's the norm, but it's not. So you don't have to have a particular day. And I can remember when I was brought up at St. John's, Woolston, I'd go up to the altar rail every week because I wanted to make sure I was a Christian. And it wasn't until the youth leader, Richard, whose wife in the end ran off with another woman, and he ran off with someone else. But at that time, God used him, and he said to me, Michael, you are a Christian. You will do the devotions next week. I never, after that, went up. Because he named what I was, but I couldn't, because I didn't have that testimony of sex, drugs, rock and roll to Jesus. I've discovered since then, most of us haven't. But stand tall and thank God every day that you were born in a godly family, that you probably were not sexually abused and had to put up with a whole lot of other rubbish that others who weren't have to put up with. But don't feel inferior that you haven't got the date and the wonderful testimony. Just praise God for it. Now, spoil yourself. You spoil it. Now, I turned 66 in June, so 65 last year. Nelson, we live in the deanery. Now, it's opposite the cathedral. It's a massive place. It's like a fridge. They've got 6 heat pumps. 6 heat pumps. Anyway, I was going by Smith City on my 65th birthday. And there in Smith City was a TV. A 65-inch TV. And God said, that is yours. And it was half price. And I don't do anything about finances. I don't know anything about finance in our household. Patsy's the one. I don't believe you should compete. If you've got someone who's gifted, let them do it. And all I know is when I've got this little card and it's got 4 numbers. And when I push 4 numbers, don't know what happens. Anyway, I went in and I pushed the 4 numbers. And do you know what? Now, where's Richard Black? Where is he? He's gone. Good. Because, I hope this isn't being recorded, because I put the 65-inch TV in my bedroom where Patsy and I have some grand times together. Even though we've been married 44 years. But don't tell Richard that this 44-inch screen is in the bedroom, and it's a massive deanery, a massive wall. And when I come back to Christchurch, God willing, my biggest dilemma will be what will I do with it? Because our house here doesn't have a wall that will fit it. Anyway, do you know what? As a result of that, I have a win-win situation. Every night, I turn on something. Don't tell him. But not both at once. I'm not allowed. For all of those over 65, I recommend it. I never fail. I have at least 50% success. Most nights. 65-inch TV, the cricket's fantastic. All the sport, the EPL, the rugby league, the Warriors lost again. They're a cot case, the Crusaders, yeah, that's good. But listen, look after yourself. And you are in charge of that. Your wife is not in charge of it. She is not your counselor. She is your lover. She is your supporter. We've got to grow big in this because we like to blame others. But you've got to look after yourself. You're in charge of your fitness. Physical fitness, spiritual fitness. Now, linked to this is your diary. Now, when I was vicar of St. Christopher's Avonhead, I had the absolute privilege of every 2 weeks going to sit at the feet of Murray Robertson, who was in those days the pastor of Spraden Baptist Church. He had been there 44 years. So he had what was called the Thursday Club, or it's called the Thursday Club or the Holy Club. Now, every senior pastor in the world was invited. And I always wondered why about 20 of us would turn up. It was gold. Besides Bill Hybels, I owe Murray Robertson so much for me being 40 years in ministry. Every 2 weeks, and I'd get a diary. I just got my 2020 diary last week, and I love it. Getting a new diary, putting in the dates for next year, because I'm in charge of my diary. No one else is. Don't blame anyone else. So I'd ring him up, and he used to get annoyed because, it's every second Thursday, Mike. I said, yeah, but what's the first one? So I can go, and I go through the whole 52 weeks. And do you know what? It's a recipe that's ideal for a small group. And I learnt so much. And there are 3 parts to it. And I leave you with this. 1:30 every second Thursday, we'd go to his place, the church there. And we'd have 15 minutes worth of worship. Now I loved it because we were all different denominations. And a lot of pastors, especially some of the Penty guys, they've been fantastic musos, and they're frustrated now because music is big in the Penties, and they're not allowed to play any longer because they're not good enough, because they breed so many other good musos. So when they come to the Holy Club, they really let loose, and we sing fantastic. When pastors are together, we sing fantastic, and you can easily sing in the Spirit. It is a wonderful experience. Now, I play 3 chords on a guitar, and whenever there was a song that resonated with me and only had 3 chords, then I'd say to him afterwards, hey, can I have that, please? Thank you. What are the chords? Thank you. And I'd use it the next week in my church. So, when I go to a home group, I want to come back with a resource. I'm that way orientated. I want to upskill. I want to keep upskilling. I plagiarize all the time. I've got nothing original. And so I'd get some music. Secondly, we would then have the input. Now listen to this. It is too easy for us to read a passage of Scripture, and then the first question is, what are the big words that spring out at you? I know. What does this passage mean for you? Now, please, I'm not being critical, but before you do that, ask the question, who wrote this? When did they write it? Why did they write it? What's the condition of the church behind that? You've got to do that. Now there's a second-hand Christian bookshop around off Blenheim Road. Now, if you can go and buy some Barclays, now he's old as the hills, Barclay, he's dead, but his books aren't. And he's not very good at the commentary, but he's good at the overall history of the book of the Bible. It is fantastic. He tells you the history of what was going on in Ephesus at the time Ephesians was written, what was going on in Colossae when Colossians was written. And so when you've got your study group, tell one person, go and give us 4 minutes of good gutsy thing on what's the background to the passage we're about to study. And Murray Robertson would do that. He would give us gold. It was fantastic. And then after 15 or 20 minutes, then we'd do what pastors love doing. We'd discuss our prejudices and we'd preach our sermons again to each other. We'd have a new audience. And too often I see in Bible study groups, we go straight into discussion of what it means for me. I want to know what it meant then. Why was it written? That's called exegesis. You must do some exegesis. Eisegesis is what does it mean for me? Exegesis, what does it mean then? So, first of all, music, worship. Secondly, input, solid input. Not for too long, because some will get bored. Then you discuss it. And the third part was prayer triads. And this is fantastic. You'd pray in 3s. So praying, and another contention for mine is the nice people never get prayed for. It's people, the extroverts like me, who'll say, yeah, I'll have prayer. And I hog all the time. And suddenly it's time to go. And the nice, quiet introverts are sitting there saying, well, I'd love prayer, but I've run out of time. You can't do that when you run a group. Everyone's got to have the same length of time. So if we were praying in triads, we'd just go around, what do you want prayer for? What do you want prayer for? What do you want prayer for? You two then pray for me. So I get 2 prayers. Us two then pray for you, and you get 2 prayers. And then us two pray for you, and you get 2 prayers. And that's equal, because often it's the early people who get the 10 prayers, and by the time it comes to the nice people at the end, there's no time. Just a quick prayer. It's not fair. So, I think that's a great model of you growing and being nurtured in the faith. My favourite story, just to finish, is a hospital story. There were 2 blokes in a hospital. One was by the window, another was on his back by the wall. He was prostrate. All he could see was the roof. And so the guy by the window would give fantastic descriptions of what was happening outside. The old man and woman holding hands, the sunrise, the kids feeding the ducks, kids swinging. And it was fantastic. And the guy who was on this side by the wall, who could just go like that, could see it all in his mind. One day the guy by the window died, and the guy said, "Can I please have his bed?" So he went over and had his bed. The next morning, he looked up out the window, and to his consternation, it was a blank wall. There was nothing outside. There was a window, but outside was a blank wall. And he said to the nurse, "Nurse, what's happened? This bloke, for the last 2 years, he's been describing what's outside, and he's made my life really good, and I could see everything. And I go there, and actually there was a blank wall." And the nurse said this, "Not only was there a blank wall, but your mate was blind." Your mate was blind, and listen, and he did that to support you. He did that to help you. That's what I want you to do. I want you to make other people's lives light up because you describe to them about Jesus being the best and you're delivering it. And everyone said, Amen. Rightio, we've got some action points. Who is the person who you can journey with in this? You need one person. I had a mate called Mark Larson. He was principal of Middleton Grange. He and I would go off for a couple of days a year. We'd sneak off, and he'd meet all his Middleton Grange students wagging because they've got a batch over at Purau. But we laugh at that now. We were ahead of our time. That we took time just to be with each other. Now, you need someone else. You need someone. And it's not allowed to be your wife, but it's got to be someone who's going to help you through this journey. You can't do it on your own. So you need someone just to journey with you. So write down the book. Who's safe for you to walk this journey with? Who will be willing and available to walk the journey with you? Yeah, so you've got to think of some people, and this is what a Christian community is. I tell you what, by the way, these days there's a new configuration post-earthquake Christchurch. That I don't think it's heresy, but I think you can belong to a home group that encompasses a variety of churches. I mean, the churches are splitting terribly in Christchurch at the moment over all sorts of issues. But the relationships are important. And if you have had a relationship in a home group, of a home group in a certain church, and you no longer go to that church, I think it's perfectly reasonable that you still meet with those people during the week. And if your pastor doesn't understand that, you've got to re-educate your pastor. That we're beyond boundaries now. We're beyond denominations. This is earthquake crisis. Just blame the earthquake. You can blame the earthquake for everything. And so maybe you have friends that are way back that you rely on. They might not go to the same church as you now, but that doesn't matter. But you've got to have someone, it's up to you, to journey. Okay, anything else that I've got to do? Into groups? Into groups. Okay? So you've got to get into groups and then just talk to each other about the person who could be there for you. And then, hey, why don't you, if you've got time, why don't you, if you're in threes, pray in triads. But I think there's also another question about what you've heard today. What is an action point? What's one thing you're going to do because of today, or not do because of today? But whatever you do, don't blame me about getting a TV in your bedroom. I didn't say. Don't tell Richard, because I'll be sacked. Thanks, everyone. Dirty. You don't have to let go of the rope, righto?
Can I add just something?